Hi everyone, my name is Donnie Lowy. I'm at Closeoutexplosion.com. I have a wholesale business here in New York. The next time you visit, you are welcome to come visit my business. So today I'd like to discuss with you how to become a wholesale surplus dealer. First of all, what is a wholesale surplus dealer? A wholesale surplus dealer is a business person that buys and sells merchandise at a wholesale level, and he or she specifically focuses on what's called surplus inventory. Now, what is surplus? Surplus, the definition of surplus, is anything that is extra, that there is too much of. Now, the caveat when you think of surplus merchandise, it could sound like, I don't know, it could sound completely innocent, right? Hey, it's surplus, it's extra merchandise, someone else didn't need it, you buy it, and then you go ahead and you take that merchandise, and then you resell that merchandise to someone else. So it could sound, very innocent that way. But remember that sometimes the reason why merchandise is surplus is because there's an issue with the merchandise, or maybe initially was needed for a specific season, maybe it was needed for a certain holiday, maybe it was needed for a certain customer base, and now it's just no longer needed, so that merchandise becomes surplus. Now, usually when we think of surplus merchandise, we associate it with government agencies, with nonprofit organizations. It could be with companies as well, but surplus usually is not meant to indicate inventory that's being sold, but it's usually products or assets that are no longer needed and they become surplus. So I'll give you an example. You could have a state agency that is in charge of transportation, and they have buses and vans. And now, because the routes have changed, they no longer need some of the vans that they were using. Those vans become surplus. As a surplus dealer, you could buy those vans and you could resell them. Now, if you're dealing with government agencies, there could be restrictions, so you always need to know those restrictions. One of the challenges with buying surplus inventory, whether it's an asset such as a car, could even be a property that's no longer needed, or it could be, for instance, it could also be maybe goods, like paper goods that are needed for the printer, or paint that was being used to fix a building, to paint a building. Now that government agency or the nonprofit institution doesn't have that property anymore, they don't need that paint. The issue is that there's no recourse. It's sold as is. So if you discover that the paint is old and it's not as fresh as it used to be, it's on you. If you buy a van and the van needs to be repaired, it's on you. So there definitely are challenges. Now the upside is that when you buy surplus merchandise, it's whether you're buying it from a government agency, you're buying it from a nonprofit, you're buying it from a corporation, is that asset or that merchandise, that item is no longer needed. And while the government agency or the nonprofit or the private corporation is going to seek to recoup as much as they can of their cost, but they no longer need that item and they want it off their books, and within reason, if they get a decent amount of money back, they're usually going to be happy. There's laws and regulations, there's different mandates. Some government agencies have to recoup, a certain percentage, or they have to try to recoup a certain percentage. But generally speaking, the seller or the owner of surplus merchandise, surplus assets, just wants it gone. So the first step is you can look for auctions that take place online or offline to buy surplus products or surplus assets. You could contact different government agencies, be put on their mailing list. You can also contact nonprofit institutions. You can also go to websites like, I believe it's govliquidation.com. It's owned by liquidation.com. Maybe it's called GovLiquidation, but you'll see there's many websites online that go ahead and liquidate merchandise and assets on behalf of government agencies, nonprofit institutions, and private businesses. You can also be proactive and contact agencies directly, contact nonprofits directly, contact businesses directly, and make them offers. Let them know that if they currently have any surplus inventory, any surplus assets that they want to get rid of, you're happy to buy them, you'll make them an offer, and if that's something in the future, they should let you know. I strongly recommend that you keep in touch with them on a periodic basis, because they might not have something right now, but they could have something in the future. And even if they take down your name and number, they might remember, they might not remember. Maybe the person you spoke to, that employee, now has left and has a job elsewhere, and he or she didn't pass on your contact information. So I always recommend that you do go ahead and that you stay in touch with these businesses and with these government agencies. Number two, now it's time to sell the merchandise. So the best way to sell the merchandise, in my opinion, is to look for end users that need that merchandise. If you're going to focus on selling it to wholesalers and to resellers, you could potentially make a lot of money that way, but remember, you're gonna have to sell it at a lower price than the going wholesale price, because otherwise that reseller could just buy it from the regular wholesale supplier. If you're buying cases of copy paper, and let's say a case of copy paper, 1,000 sheets, let's say has a wholesale going rate of $3 for that package for 1,000 sheets. So if you buy it as surplus inventory, you're going to have to sell it to a reseller for less than $3 because they could just buy it from their wholesaler for $3. Now you're going to have to sell it for substantially less because the wholesaler could give them a good deal. Now, this is true even if you're selling to an end user. The difference is if you're selling to an end user and the end user is used to paying $3, or let's say they're used to paying, well, they're not going to, generally, they might not buy it from the wholesaler themselves. They can buy it from a distributor, or they might go to a store. That's actually the big difference. So that case of paper that has a wholesale price of $3, if it's sold at the retail level for $8 and you've bought it for $2, you could approach the end user, whether it's a government agency, whether it is a nonprofit organization or a store, because stores need copy paper as well, or a school or university. You could approach them and you could tell them, look, when you go to the store, you have to pay $5 for this item, or you're buying it from a distributor for $6 or even as high as $8. You'll give it to them for $1 less than they usually pay for it. You'll help them save money and they'll be happy to buy it from you. Sometimes you have to go through a bidding process. Sometimes you have to have a contract. Those are things you should look into. So it's definitely challenging to be a wholesale surplus dealer, but at the same time, there's a good opportunity. I want to make it maybe very, very simple in a way, just to show you what the opportunity is. Because I feel like maybe I've kind of given you too much of the challenges and too much of the negative, but I also want to tell you what the opportunity is. So the opportunity is as follows. Let's say you buy I don't know, boxes and boxes of paper goods, paper plates, plastic cups, you buy plastic forks and knives, and now the going rate for what you bought it, if someone went to a store, a discount store, they would have to pay for, let's say, that case of paper plates, napkins and cups and forks and knives and spoons. Let's say they'd have to pay for that case $100. That's the going retail price. Now, let's say the wholesaler themselves, they could sell it for $50 to resellers. So you have two options. You could go ahead to a reseller, and now you're competing with a wholesaler who's selling it for $50. You have to sell it for less than $50. Or you go to the end user who might be going to a store and paying $100. And if you give it to the end user for $90, you're giving them a 10% discount. You're helping them save money. And provided that you paid less than the regular wholesale price, you're working on a really good markup. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. My website is closeoutexplosion.com. The next time you're in New York, you're welcome to visit me. My WhatsApp number is 1-917-913-6093. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.